Good morning or good afternoon, Jeremy, depending on where you are at. We are just going to go ahead and wait and see just a few minutes here if anybody else would like to join. In the meantime, if you have any questions, go ahead and post it into chat or into the Q&A feature. All right, so we are at 12 Eastern here. We do have a pre-submitted question, and I think that he is on the call here. So I want to go ahead and get started with that. The pre-submitted question, I think, has been posted into the chat now. Basically wanting to go ahead and have a simple landing page that has a image button. It's going to be a run flow as an image button. And right now we're having the issue of it kind of acting a little funny and it going full size, and you just wanted a little bit of advice of how to go ahead and best place the image and banners to get the sizing to work there. So I was actually doing that this morning. I'm going to go ahead and bring over my studio real quick. I was working on it this morning. We're going to kind of start fresh here, just that way everybody can see what's going on. Creating our page, not a report, a page. I'm going to go ahead and call this run flow as image. And what happens is when we dive into our actions under flows, we'll be able to go ahead and select a flow. Some of the options that we have is run flow as button, run flow as a link, or an image here. When we bring that image over, it doesn't exactly stick to the parameters of our grids here. Give me just a second. Let me go ahead and refresh my page here. What happens, it actually goes ahead and comes out of that grid layout. What I would recommend to do instead is to go ahead and, well, let me go ahead and restart here. What I would recommend to do instead is to go ahead and maybe have a form tile or a grid layout applied instead. A form tile, you could probably go ahead and set up with an event button to go ahead and send it over to the flow. I personally think it'd be a little bit easier to go ahead and have a grid layout. And instead of doing the run flow as image, we go ahead and do run flow as link or run flow as button. And as soon as this comes back up, I'll reshare and I'll show you how to do that. Come back through. All right, here we go. Knock on wood. All right, well, let me try something else just real quick. In the meantime, while I'm trying to get everything up and loaded, any other questions? Or I believe it was Day that asked that question. Does that make sense what I'm trying to describe to you? I will definitely go ahead and show you as well too. But does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It was just, it was acting very odd around the, you'll pull an image, like on forms, images work perfectly as intended. On here, it just kind of, there was really no way to set the actual size of it. So it just, like, instead of being a normal size button, it was like 300 pixels by 300 pixels. And that just looked very
So I did notice that too. We might go ahead and see if we can get with the team and see why not even the sizing, when I try to go ahead and mess with the different sizing down there at the bottom, it didn't change anything for that image either.
That's what I noticed as well. And I'm on version 8, so it seems like it's a 7 and 8 and 8 thing.
Yep, I checked both too. So I'm not going to go ahead and try and choose the image.
And it really, to be clear, like the pages are a great way to create like an actual just like web page that I could publish out to say, here's like a landing page where you can go and run these different flows from, right? I mean, that's a good use of a page.
Yeah, I've actually had a landing page where we had 4 different options. We use it internally to go ahead and sort through different types of dashboards. We've got different like internal processes, and we use our own landing pages to go ahead and click to start running those flows and dashboard itself.
Gotcha.
So absolutely. Okay. So this grid layout here, I'm gonna go ahead and make it one by one.
Oh, I see. So the page by default doesn't actually have a grid layout on it, or it does?
So it should. I bring over another grid layout,
Mhm.
and then we're gonna go ahead and take this down here for the view and make the background an image. That way we can go ahead and still have that image available to us. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in a file. We're gonna do a nice little beach background here. And then here is where we're able to go ahead and manipulate our image. I usually do the background image stretch as long as it looks good itself, because it usually starts to go ahead and kind of fit that area. We
Yeah.
should also be able to come down here to size and tabs and go ahead and change the width, the height. We can set a minimum and maximum for it here too.
And does
These
that,
are the settings that should have affected that button that weren't.
Yeah. And that's a different section at the top, right? If you go into Explorer, like that's what I've also been struggling with is like, as you have that grid layout 1, I think is the one at the top. How do you change the
That's this one up
size
here.
of that? Yeah, how do you change the overall size of that entire, like how do you move it down a little bit?
You might want to go ahead. So I would probably do the root container here. And that's where we're able to go ahead and see the columns and the rows. So the rows right here, that's where we're going to go ahead and change the size.
Okay. Okay.
You can also change the bottom one too if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'll play around with that. I just that's much better adding the actual. I think that's the workaround is adding the actual grid layout and then just displaying an image as the background. Because if you put in an actual image object, that's when it kind of goes haywire.
Yeah, and I can't even get down to the flow portion. It might freeze again here. Yeah, it was working fine for me earlier. I don't know what's going on with it now, but basically just instead of choosing the image option, go ahead and choose the button under link. You can go ahead and slide it over. And I'll go ahead and show you the one I was using earlier where it kind of slides over and you're able to go ahead and just have that button on top of the image there. And it looks kind of what we're aiming to get. It's just not the exact thing we were looking at. We can go ahead and, like I said, I'll go ahead and reach out and see what we can do to either have that option to manipulate it, because yeah, like I said, under size and tabs, you should be able to go ahead and change the pixels and all that. Any other questions or any questions about what I was trying to show? Awesome. Okay, so
in this case, would you then just place like just a button or link on top of that background graphic?
yeah, that's kind of what I did here. I was kind of messing with the image itself as like the run flow for image. What happens is it actually brings in the image like way bigger than I think the actual box is, and it starts to fill up most of the page. What I did when you do the grid layout and fill it in the background image itself, you can go ahead and place that image on top. Again, it's going to depend on the CSS that you've got for the landing page itself of like the button color and all that. But this right here is just on top of that grid layout. And if we go ahead and click on that, it will take us to either a form, a flow, or a dashboard, depending on the option you chose.
And how do you get that page to show up like as a page without running a debug or a preview on it? I've looked for that in the documentation and I didn't see it. I saw somebody do it once like a few months ago and I was like, I should take note of that, and I didn't. Like, yeah, like right here, you're just viewing the page, so it shows up as a page like it's supposed to. How do you make that happen?
I need you to go create a folder.
Yep.
And we're going to go ahead and create a regular folder, not a design folder.
Mm-hmm.
Actually can't type. And then from there, you're going to go ahead and come down to those 3 little dots. We're going to do manage down the bottom, page and dashboard, and then add a new page or dashboard. When you do so, you're going to need to go ahead and click on it. and then it should go ahead and pre-fill some of the naming conventions. And then up here at the top, you have to actually tab over to that side, because in a folder, you could actually have a few different dashboards or pages on it.
Yeah. And are you able to publish that page to an actual URL that could be served outside of Studio and Portal?
Yep. So what we usually do
there
for like I work for I'm on the sales engineering team, and so a lot of what we do is like proof of concepts. So we're actually able to go ahead and have that page be brought up to be where you're just viewing the actual page itself.
Yeah, like I know how to publish a flow to a URL and an API and all that fun stuff. I didn't see that in the page editor. There was no like publish this to X. Is that and I didn't see anything in the documentation either. Otherwise I would have followed that.
Yes. Now that you asked me how to do it, I'm not gonna know. I know you can definitely go ahead and do like Chrome equals auth up here at the top, which is one of the workarounds you could do. Panelists, do you guys remember how to go ahead and like publish to a URL for a page?
You mean generate like a direct link via like similar print integrations?
Yeah, same thing. Create an actual URL that somebody could access with or without access to Studio and Portal.
Yeah, give me one moment. Let me pull something up on that for you.
Cool. So I think Ryan's gonna go ahead and take care of that question for you guys. And then if I can, I'll go ahead and show you guys what else we got for me today. Anything else? So if we don't have anything, what I'm going to do now is I think I did have a little bit for us prepared today. I just need to remember what it was. It looks like you guys are a little bit interested in as far as like landing pages and dashboards work. Do you guys have any questions about like styling or any of the features on the landing pages or dashboards?
I've been digging into a lot of the CSS. I've actually just been kind of creating CSS. And I know that there's like a list for version 7 of all the different CSS classes that are inherent. Is there any? Are there any other secret hidden ones that we should know about? I know, I suck at CSS. It's funny, markup languages throw me for a loop, but C++ and such doesn't bother me, right? And CSS is, yeah, like I guess, is there like a master list of all the different objects that you can assign classes to? There was a few in the documentation, but I don't think it was all, because then you kind of go to the forum and there were some other ones in there that were like some people had discovered, and it was just kind of, I don't know if there's like a better master list somewhere of all the different objects that you can assign a class to via CSS.
I feel like there is, and it should have been a documentation there.
Like I said, maybe that's all of it. It just seemed like it was pretty small. It was a small amount.
So I know we've got different classes per se, depending on if you're in a form or the dashboards, reports, stuff like that. Me personally, what I've done is I've taken one of the CSS classes that we use most often. For me, it was just Agile code that we saw all the time. And I just kind of went through there and started taking a look and making little changes and seeing what affected it there.
Yeah.
I didn't come from the IT world when I first came to Decisions. That was definitely me learning CSS in itself too, and a little bit of HTML.
Yeah.
But as far as like a cheat sheet, I feel like there should be one out there. Let me
We do
Give
have
me
a
just a
small
second.
one in documentation. I can post the document for the CSS classes in there. But candidly, the best way I would recommend using that is probably just to use the element inspector in your browser. If
Okay.
there's a specific thing that you want to change and you don't see the listing in this document I'm about to
Gotcha.
post here, then in that case,
Okay.
the quickest way is just to inspect element, get the class name, add it to your CSS. I've gone ahead and actually let me put this to everyone. Sorry about that. There we go.
Makes sense.
We do have documentation for some of these classes here, as well to kind of complete the circle. Apologies on the delay for the integration details for a page and dashboard. I had to set one up locally here just to make sure I remembered it. It is under the same options. It is right click and do manage, and then integration details. Or an integration, view integration details. It'll ask you how you'd like to set up the authentication. If you don't want a user to be required for sign-in, you'd probably want to configure guest access here or a named session. And then there is an option for select page. If you check that, it will give you a drop down of all of the pages associated to that folder. So you can tell them exactly the page you want to send them to.
Where exactly is that? I'm not seeing that under manage.
Yeah, are we on a regular folder? It's under, or the designer folder.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so
it'll be under manage, integration, and then view integration details.
there we go. Okay, there we go. That's right, because the designer folder can never be served out. Like
exactly.
That makes sense. Okay, cool.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem at all.
So we're just talking about the select page there. And
yep,
then,
if you check the enable page selection, it'll let you pick your pages from the drop down there in case you have multiple. So yeah, that's how we can deliver that out. I'd probably recommend as well what we see Ashley doing here to set that display type for Chrome to off. So when you deliver that URL, they don't
just figured that out. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't see the scaffolding around it.
Perfect. That's great.
Awesome. Okay, so a little bit of CSS questions there, and then I'm sure designer elements you're familiar with there, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Have you guys crossed over into any of the like interactive reports, or where you can go ahead and click on a report and it or like a graph and it pop up a report, or like a KPI tile that's interactive there?
I think we did it in like week 1 or week 2 of the developer training.
Cool, awesome, okay.
Or one of the BA. Yeah, it was actually pretty helpful. I couldn't remember how I did it, and I went to the documentation. And I didn't really see that specific thing, and I was like, oh, I know it's here somewhere.
Well, let me see if I have a report pulled up somewhere. I do. Okay, cool. So this report here, what you'll need, and I don't have any data, of course, but what you'll need to do is actually go ahead and set up a report, and then we'll need a, like if I wanted to do ID coming through, and then we'll basically need a selection bus that we'll go ahead and name the same thing. And then we'll go ahead and have the report see that selection bus on the tile itself or the graphing too. Here, you should be able, let me see if I can get a report that has a little bit of information. Give me just a second here. Well, I'm pulling up a report that's got a little bit of information for us to work with, or I can create it too. What are some unique features that you guys have liked? Dave, I know you said you were on version 8. How do you feel about version 8? What are your thoughts?
You know, for the first version of a new version, it's actually not as buggy as I expected it to be. it's got a couple little glitches here and there, but nothing, no like showstopper. So it's actually pretty stable, which is great. It's very performant, which is nice. Although this is our first instance of decisions internally at our company. We've only ever used like you guys' training environments, which are obviously, reduced for size and cost and such. But yeah, it's been great. I would love to get rid of that silly default font of Nunito. It just drives me. I know I should not care about that, but I would love to be able to change, add a font to the system. Like I know I can CSS my own fonts in there and such, and I've done that, but yeah, just that Nunito is just drives me up the wall. But I think there's some feature requests we've already put in around just being able to change default fonts and such, or add default fonts rather is the keyword. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. What's that?
I was going to ask, since we're not trying to do it through CSS, are we trying to use a TFF file for a font?
Oh no, so, well, yeah, no, actually, like I went onto the server and actually uploaded. We use some of the Google fonts, right? Some of the for all of our stuff, and so we're just trying to make it look and feel like our current platform, so that as we integrate, it's you can't tell that Decisions is behind the scenes, that sort of thing. Because most of our stuff here will be customer facing external applications and not like internal business process. I mean, we're going to get to that, but
I'd be interested to play a bit more. It's fine if we need to go offline with that particular one there. As we do, you can load a TFF file to your file system and set that as the default for your environment. That can be done.
I would love to know how to do. Yeah, and you're saying TTF, right? Like the typical true type font.
Or TTF, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I was like,
was I saying TFF? I'm just reading something wrong here. My apologies. Yeah.
No, you're good.
Yeah. Standard true type. We can deploy them, and I can send some documentation about that if you'd like as well.
Yes, that would be awesome. Yeah, because what we're trying to do is make the decisions. Like I said, we're a little bit unique in that we are using this mainly for external applications, but yeah, like I said, it's not a hill I'm going to die on. But yeah, if we can change that default font so that right out of the gate, it's the font that we use for everything else, that'd be super awesome.
Would you guys have a CSS to use in tandem with your TTF or no?
Yes, I created just a simple CSS file just to call in. We use the Google font Inter. It's pretty much one of their most standard, because we're all Microsoft Teams and Azure and such, and so that's a very standard Microsoft font. Yeah, no, it'd just be great to. And I did upload all the whole TTF family for that into the actual fonts folder on the server, but I didn't see any changes after a reboot and all that stuff. So I figured there's probably some registry level or something else that needs
something that needs to be configured. You can also, if it's in there, you could just do an override on the items you'd like manually, but allow me just to look really quickly to find the where the default value is configured, so I can get you that answer too. Just bear with me. I'll come back on once I've got the answer for you.
But yeah, like version 8's been really great. I like the fact that the sidebar at the bottom, which is actually the bottom bar in version 7, becomes a sidebar in version 8 and kind of gets out of the way, the debugger and all those little icons at the bottom. I think that's great. So yeah. Are there any other like big glaring new features? I mean, so I know that from an infrastructure perspective, there's obviously containerization, which we haven't undertaken yet, but there's also multi-tenancy is back, because I know version 6 had it, version 7 didn't. So that's very important, obviously, like in healthcare and finance. Every customer has their own database federated out. So that's been a huge win. Any other big, cool new features that we should know about?
So I believe those are the biggest ones, is multi-tenancy and containerization, especially for enterprise companies. From there, there's been a few little different design features. Another thing that I like is the folder scaffolding on the left-hand side. It's a little more condensed, a little bit easier to read per se too, I think, or at least visually appealing maybe is a better word. So just a few different design features. Working inside of 7 and 8 kind of at the same time for a lot of my different projects that I've got going on, it's very easy to bounce back and forth between. There wasn't a whole bunch of updates there, so it's not like going from an iPhone 6 to 11 real quick, or the different iOSs there. It was a very smooth transition, I think.
Yeah, there was no shock and awe, as they say.
Yeah.
It's a nice transition. Yeah.
So I do apologize. My local does not seem to be liking me too much today, and so it keeps freezing. So that's why I haven't reshared my screen with you guys. But I can definitely go ahead and next lunch and learn that I'm on here. Go ahead and show you guys how to do the interactive diagram tiles, as well as those different graphs too. That way we can have a report viewer pop up. I like those a lot because I'm all about the interactive dashboards.
Awesome. We'll use it as a time to jump in here. Dave, I've gone ahead and put 2 links in the chat here. The first one is for our documentation about using custom fonts and CSS in tandem. And then the second one is simply just a forum post I've dug up here that kind of relates to this, has a bit more information as well as the kind of syntax you'll want to use. The very last post in that link also has the updated URL for version 7 for where they want to place it.
And just to be clear, that's exactly what I did. I guess what I'm asking is like, Ashley, if you're in the page there and you want to change the font on something, the form font, I think that's where we're looking to see for that to show up, but it's not showing up. Like, so yes, I could do it through CSS, but it would be really nice to also have like some of the, not every element will respond to CSS. Like I think the rich text display, like I said, doesn't, I think that's like a feature request for future. Like that won't respect any CSS you throw at it. But in that rich text editor, yeah, there's only like, 8 fonts, and it's like, well, I'd like to add my own, that type of thing.
And if you've put the TTF file in there and you're not seeing that font, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Okay,
like
that one.
If I click right there on label attributes, yeah.
Where it says edit pencil.
Yeah, the label
Let
attributes.
Let me get a CSS first.
Yeah.
Interesting, because if that's not showing up, I would think that one, I would want to submit a support ticket for that, because it should, if we have a TTF file in there, it should just read from that. You're saying it's not finding it though.
Yeah, if you click that font family dropdown, it should then pull in whatever's in that folder theoretically. And this is after.
Yeah, correct. I would say to submit a support ticket on that one. That sounds like something that we would want to look at if that's not
and
working the way
I've never done it in we didn't have our own server in 7, so I didn't have the ability to go upload stuff, but we started with 8, so I was like, oh, this should work. And then I'll open a ticket.
So
that's definitely the
way. For those forms and stuff, I apologize, maybe I just wasn't understanding the first part of this. So do you already have a CSS class applied to your forms, and then you're trying to change the like the text style for each individual label or text box?
So I do, because you're right, because like most objects will respond to the CSS just fine, and I can then insert the font there, and it's fine. It's that there are not every, like if you pull down a rich text display, you can't actually go in there and select the font. You can select the font, but it's only from it's an even smaller subset of the form fonts. So as a nice workaround, until there's like the ability to apply CSS to rich text display, it'd be great to be able to go in and say, well, I don't want Arial, that's boring. Let me put in my font. And so yeah, I'll open up a ticket, Ryan, and see what happens. It might just be a version 8 glitch. I know there was like there's a couple little minor bugs that they're patching that should come out at the end of the month. So
that might be one that was just kind of in that sweep. Feel free to include my name and just mention, hey, we spoke about it in the lunch and learn, and I can catch up whatever support tech on my side. Make it a little easier for you.
Yeah. Or they'll be like, what is Ryan talking about?
It's 50-50, one or the other. We work together, Dave,
Yeah.
Well, we're getting to about 12:30 Eastern here. So I know we've answered quite a few questions for Dave here. Jeremy, I don't know what version you're on, or if you've gotten a chance to look at 8 or see some of the different features there. Do you have any questions today or anything for us? Okay, perfect. And that's perfectly okay if you just want to come in and soak up all the material that we've got for you guys. Again, I do want to apologize for my local here kind of freezing up on us and reloading all the time. So I wasn't able to show you the material for the reports there. I'd love to go ahead and show you that to you guys next time. If there's no more questions, are we good to go ahead and close out for today?
Oh, yes, we are.
Okay, awesome. Well, you guys go ahead and join us back next week, Monday through Thursday there for the Lunch and Learns. If you have any questions, feel free to pre-submit them or go ahead and ask them there live on the Lunch and Learns. Thank you guys so much for attending today. Have a good one, y'all.